There are pythons in Florida, big ones. Some of them are over 18 feet long and weigh more than 200 pounds. They have no natural predators. They eat deer, alligators, and basically anything they want. Scientists have been trying to get rid of them for years and failing badly. And then, something started eating them. Not biting them, not scaring them away, swallowing them whole. Entire pythons, gone. And the thing doing it, nobody fully agrees on what it is. Florida is already one of the strangest places on the planet when it comes to wildlife. The Everglades alone is basically a different world. A massive, slow-moving river covered in sawgrass and swamp, stretching across the southern tip of the state. It's hot, it's thick, and it hides things. For decades, the Burmese python quietly took over that world. It spread into places humans rarely go, set up its territory, and started wiping out entire animal populations that had existed there for thousands of years. Raccoons, opossums, rabbits, their numbers dropped by over 90% in some areas. The python became the top predator of the Everglades. But something has changed. And what's happening now raises a question that nobody really expected to be asking. What do you do when the thing you were terrified of becomes the prey? Let's back up for a second, because to understand why this is such a big deal, you need to understand just how bad the python situation in Florida actually got. Burmese pythons are not native to Florida. They're from Southeast Asia, places like Myanmar, Thailand, and southern China. They were brought over as exotic pets, and for a while, people kept them in their homes. Then they got too big, some owners released them into the wild. A few may have escaped during Hurricane Andrew in 1992, when a breeding facility was destroyed. And from that point on, the pythons did what pythons do: they survived, they spread, and they reproduced. By the 2000s, it was already clear there was a serious problem. By the 2010s, it was a disaster. Estimates put the python population somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 in Florida. Some researchers believe the number could actually be higher. These snakes are almost impossible to find in the wild because they don't move much and their skin pattern blends perfectly with the swamp floor. You can walk within a few feet of one and never know it's there. Florida tried everything. They allowed hunting seasons, they trained dogs to sniff out the snakes, they hired professional python hunters who get paid per snake. They even launched programs where members of the public can register to go out and remove pythons from the wild. None of it made a significant dent. The pythons kept spreading, kept eating, and kept growing. And then researchers started noticing something strange in the data. It started with tracking. Scientists had put GPS transmitters inside some of the pythons as part of long-term research studies. You swallow the transmitter down into the snake, and it signals the snake's location every few hours. This lets you track where pythons travel, how large their territory is, how they behave during different seasons. And then, some of the signals stopped moving. At first, this happens and it usually means the battery died, or the snake shed the transmitter somehow. But when researchers went out to check on some of these stopped signals, they found something unexpected. The transmitters were still there, but the pythons weren't always in great shape. Some were partially consumed. Some were just gone, with only the transmitter left behind as evidence that something had eaten them. One of the most documented cases involved a large alligator. Alligators and pythons have a complicated relationship in the Everglades. Early on, when pythons first arrived, there were some dramatic encounters. Photos went around the internet of a python that had tried to swallow an alligator and essentially exploded from the inside, which sounds made up but actually happened. For a while, the two species seemed to be figuring out some kind of uneasy coexistence, each one occasionally eating the other depending on size. But what researchers started observing more recently went beyond those isolated battles. Larger American alligators, really large ones, the kind that have been in the Everglades for decades, were actively hunting and consuming Burmese pythons. Not just fighting them, hunting them, seeking them out. And given that alligators can reach lengths of 13 or 14 feet and weigh over 800 pounds, a python that might seem enormous to a human is actually not that hard for a serious alligator to deal with. There are recorded observations of alligators clamping down on a python's midsection and doing what's called a death roll, spinning their entire body rapidly to tear apart the snake. Pythons are incredibly strong when they're constricting, but a death roll breaks that grip and causes serious internal damage. After a few rolls, the python is incapacitated, and then the alligator swallows it headfirst or in chunks. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Alligators may not be the only thing doing this. There's another animal in the Everglades that has been quietly observed interacting with pythons in ways that surprised researchers. The Florida cottonmouth, also known as the water moccasin. This is a venomous pit viper that is native to the region. Cottonmouths aren't small snakes. They can reach lengths of about 4 to 5 feet and are known for being aggressive when threatened. But 4 to 5 feet versus 15 feet seems like a ridiculous matchup. Except that venom changes the equation. There have been documented cases where cottonmouths have bitten and killed juvenile Burmese pythons. The venom is hemotoxic. It destroys tissue and affects the blood's ability to clot. For a young python, still growing, this can be lethal. And young pythons are the key. If you can reduce the number of pythons that make it to adulthood, you slowly reduce the overall population. Every juvenile python eaten or killed by a native predator is one less adult python reproducing in 2 or 3 years. This matters because the way pythons reproduce is part of why they've been so hard to control. A single female Burmese python can lay anywhere from 12 to 36 eggs in one clutch. She coils around them to regulate their temperature during incubation, and once the eggs hatch, the juvenile snakes are immediately on their own and already equipped to hunt. There's no parental protection, but there also doesn't need to be. These snakes are born with instincts fully intact. So the real battleground isn't the 18-foot adults. It's the juveniles. And native Florida wildlife may be slowly starting to figure out how to handle them. There's also been serious attention given to the indigo snake, a large, non-venomous snake that is native to the southeastern United States and is actually a protected species in Florida. Eastern indigo snakes are known snake eaters. They specifically seek out and eat other snakes, including venomous ones, because they have a natural resistance to certain types of venom. Historically, before the python invasion, indigo snakes were one of the top reptilian predators in Florida's ecosystems. Their populations declined significantly due to habitat loss and collection for the pet trade. But conservation efforts have been slowly reintroducing them to parts of Florida. And here's the thing. Indigo snakes have been documented eating small to medium-sized pythons. They're fast, they're aggressive, and they use a technique of chewing and subduing their prey rather than constricting it. A python that tries to coil around an indigo snake is dealing with an animal that actively fights back. Whether indigo snakes can scale up to deal with fully grown adult Burmese pythons is still uncertain. An 18-foot python outweighs an indigo snake by a massive amount. But for medium-sized pythons in the 6 to 10-foot range, the indigo snake is a genuine threat. Now, here's the part that actually keeps some researchers up at night. Some of the transmitter data, the cases where GPS-tagged pythons just disappeared, doesn't perfectly match up with known alligator activity in those locations. In a few instances, the math of what was found, or not found, raises questions. The transmitter would be in one spot, but no obvious signs of a major predation event were visible. No tracks, no drag marks, no disturbed vegetation. The python was just gone. One theory that has been floated, not confirmed but discussed, is that something is getting better at this than we realize. Alligators are highly intelligent animals by reptile standards. They learn. If certain alligators in certain areas have figured out that pythons are prey and have been successfully hunting them, those individuals may be getting extremely efficient at it. An efficient ambush predator operating in dark swamp water doesn't leave much evidence. Another theory involves the possibility that the pythons themselves have been changing their behavior. When a population gets hunted, even by natural predators, the individuals that survive tend to be the ones who are more cautious, more hidden, better at avoiding threats. If something has been picking off pythons in certain areas, the surviving pythons may be adapting. And a python that's adapting its behavior to avoid a predator is a python that becomes even harder for human hunters to find and remove. It's a strange situation. The thing that was supposed to be the unstoppable invasive species is now, in certain pockets of the Everglades, dealing with pressure from below,
from the ecosystem it tried to take over.
Here's the uncomfortable truth that sits at the center of all of this. Florida's ecosystem is not going to fix itself fast. Even if alligators and indigo snakes and cottonmouths and other native predators start making a real impact on juvenile python populations, which the current evidence suggests is beginning to happen, slowly. It will take decades to see meaningful change in the overall python numbers. The Everglades is enormous. The pythons are already deeply embedded across thousands of square miles of habitat. A natural balance, if it comes, won't come quickly. What researchers are watching for is not a dramatic moment where the pythons start disappearing overnight. What they're watching for is a change in the rate, a slowing of the python population growth, evidence that more juvenile pythons are dying before they reach adulthood, evidence that native prey populations, rabbits, raccoons, birds, start recovering in areas where predation pressure on pythons is highest. Some of that evidence is beginning to emerge. It's early. It's not conclusive. But it's there. And there's one more piece of this story that almost nobody is talking about. Not loudly, anyway. Humans have introduced another predator into this equation. One that wasn't there before. The Burmese python itself has been eaten so often in some demonstration hunts and organized removals that researchers are now studying whether the smell of human activity has started to condition some pythons to avoid certain zones. There's preliminary work looking at whether scent-based deterrence, using the chemical signals that predators leave behind, could be deployed in targeted areas to drive pythons away from regions where conservation efforts are focused. In other words, we may be able to weaponize the python's own fear response against it. Use the predator-prey dynamic that's naturally starting to develop and amplify it artificially. Make a python think it's being hunted even when there's no hunter present. That's still experimental. But the fact that it's being seriously discussed tells you something about how the scientific thinking around this problem has shifted. A few years ago, the conversation was about how to kill as many pythons as possible, as fast as possible. Now it's about how to make the Everglades itself become a place where pythons don't feel safe. Here's where we land on all of this. The Burmese python took over the Florida Everglades because it arrived in a place with no natural predators, unlimited prey, and a climate that was close enough to its home environment that it could thrive without effort. It was the perfect storm for an invasive species to go completely out of control. But ecosystems are not static. They respond to pressure. The alligators have been there for millions of years. The indigo snakes have been there for thousands of years. The cottonmouths, the birds of prey, the native competition, all of it is older and more adapted to the Everglades than the python is. And very slowly, in ways that are still being studied and understood, the Everglades is starting to push back. The pythons are not going away, not anytime soon. But something has started eating them. Something has started swallowing them whole, one by one, in the deepest parts of the swamp. And whether that something turns the tide entirely, or just slows the damage, or leads researchers toward new strategies they hadn't considered before, that part of the story is still being written right now, in real time, in the dark water of the Florida Everglades. Whatever is out there doing the eating, it's just getting started. If this made you want to go deeper, the next video is right there, waiting for you.